The Senate Committee on ICT and Cybersecurity has clarified that the proposed National Digital Economy and E-Governance Bill 2025 will not override existing laws governing agencies under the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, including the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Chairman of the committee, Senator Shuaibu Afolabi, Ogun Central, gave the assurance during a one-day public hearing of the bill held at National Assembly, Abuja. He explained that the proposed legislation seeks to establish a comprehensive digital governance framework and promote data sharing, e-documentation, and interagency connectivity in compliance with the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023.
This law will not replace NCC law. This law will not replace Galaxy Backbone law. The example I gave earlier, if you're in tech space, these are the enterprise architecture. This law is the equivalent of an enterprise architecture. You are going to have the pillars for cybercrime or cyber security law. You are going to have your SCC. The only thing we are worried about, which we are taking enough caution, is to ensure that there are no duplication of variety. And that's why you see reference in this bill to Data Protection Act. I mentioned something earlier on that somebody said, oh, our data should be localized inside Nigeria. It's not for this bill. What is to simply say that all our automation processes should or shall now comply with the provisions of Data Protection Act. Rather than trying to import data sovereignty into this bill, there's already an act that is in charge of that. We make reference to it. So this enterprise architecture, all of those pillars will still exist functioning. It makes it a lot easier. If you need to strengthen Data Protection Act for data sovereignty, we go there. If there's anything that is missing that we believe NCC should do, we go there. But this bill, what it seeks to do is to say this paper, this document in its original form. If I have this same information on my iPad, it has the same consideration as if it is in a paper form. And we notice that we are also conscious enough that there is evidence act. We mentioned two landmark enactments in this country that is in this bill. I'm not a lawyer, but I've read this sufficiently enough. The Land Use Act is in the Constitution. The Evidence Act is wired in the Constitution. We make reference to them here.
Speaking at the session, the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, described the bill as a pace-setting policy instrument that will redefine governance not only in Nigeria but across Africa.
We talk a lot about being the first on the African continent, and people think it's about bragging. As a nation that represents anywhere close to 20%, if not more, of the black nation or the black people, we do have a responsibility to set the direction for how countries across the African continent will develop. If we're able to allow Nigeria to rise, the rest of Africa will rise. And the leadership we're seeing on display today and over the past month and the last 2 years is an example of how the legislators will work with the executive, with the private sector and civil society to give Nigeria the future that we deserve.
However, in their submission to the Senate, the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, OHCSF, raised concerns about several provisions of the bill, urging alignment with the Public Service Rules, PSR, and Civil Service Reform Frameworks. The Senate committee is expected to review all submissions before presenting its final report to the Committee of the Whole for consideration and passage. As Nigeria prepares to embrace a digital future, the National Digital Economy and E-Governance Bill stands as a cornerstone of reform, one that promises to redefine governance and empower citizens through technology.
For more on well-researched and balanced stories, events and interviews across business, tech innovation and lifestyle, please like, share and subscribe to this channel, www.youtube.com/Digivation Network.